All right, ladies, gentlemen, and everything in between, and whatever you may identify as, we are live on this internet of stuff and things. I am your host, the Memes of Destruction. I'm here with my brother, CM Fox, as well as Chris from NC. Say hi to folks, everybody.
What up?
All right, so this is going to be the week in review. So apparently some stuff and things happened, and yeah. I mean, absolutely nothing. Yeah, a bunch of stuff happened. So, where would you gentlemen like to begin?
Well, thank you for prefacing it by calling me a gentleman.
Oh,
Unless
well,
it was M-A-N instead of M-E and only referring to Chris. But, I don't know.
yes, and MC is wishing us good doom. Doomless on us all. Yes, but he is kidding. It's all right. We love you, MC. So, let's just cut right up to some up-to-date news. So apparently the other day I had done a video on Aaron Danielson, and he was a Trump supporter that had apparently attended the roving rally down there in Portland, and there seemed to be an altercation. So I'm hearing everything from dude man was straight up executed to something happened and the other gentleman was defending himself and then may have been justified. Well, the suspect in that case, I believe it was Ryland something, well, he actually died last night in an encounter with police. They had been sent to where he was to issue a warrant for his arrest because he was a suspect in the case. Apparently, Vice last night as well, they did air a piece where they interviewed him as well. And
Yeah, right before
it sounded
went down.
yeah, no, it sounded more or less like he just straight up said, it's like, yeah, I shot and killed that person. He says it was self-defense there. I'm hearing a whole lot of different things, and I mean, at least the original video that I watched, it's very hard to tell. They kind of blur out basically where the firearm actually went off, and basically Aaron was shot in the chest, and he lost his life. And it was officially ruled a homicide, and it's like, well, was this straight up murder? It totally may have been there. So, and go on.
This is not the 17-year-old, right? This has nothing to do with it.
No, that was Mr. I don't like saying kids' names there. But
This is up in Portland, not Wisconsin.
Oh,
Kenosha, whatever.
Kenosha. Okay.
Yeah.
I admit I don't follow a lot of these things too much because they're immediately going to be polarized and it's going to be spun.
Well-
But like, you know what I mean? Regardless of what the truth is, like Fox and CNN, they're gonna spin it like some one way or the other.
Don't watch it on Fox or CNN. Watch it on Twitter. You can see the video. It's real-time footage a lot of the time. If you follow.
The commentary on Twitter is even more salacious, though.
Yeah, but I'm talking about the actual video
Right,
footage
right.
itself, which is like, that's probably as accurate as it'll ever get. You know, anything else is just one
Videos
person's
can-
perspective. But
Videos can be
it can be, but I think it's at least something to work with. It's a lot better than waiting for some commentator to chime in and give their rundown of what happened.
I do want to touch on just two real quick things that Fox just brought up there. And the sheer fact that you weren't exactly sure where or which situation we were talking about. And I think that is telling of many things there, because a lot of time, and this even happened to me at work the other day, we're just kind of on break out there just having a butt, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, wait a second, somebody brings up one of those things, and somebody's bringing up, well, this thing here, and we're thinking we're talking about the same thing. Well, one happened in Wisconsin, and then one happened in Oregon. It's like, oh, well, those are two very different places. There's a lot of distance there, but just the sheer mimetic, it's like, all right, what's happening? There's demonstrations, there's protests, there's rioting, you're seeing destruction, and people are dying. And we just kind of like conflate all those things together there. And also the fact where it's like, all right, we have that case, and it just kind of all blends together for us. And it's like, well, what's actually true? We're just kind of taking away just general things there. And I actually forgot my second point. So you gentlemen continue on.
Well, what I found, talking about watching video and referring to Twitter for getting the information, something that I saw the other day, it was yesterday or the day before, that is interesting. I don't know what to make of it yet, but there's further video beyond what most of us have seen that seems to show before the shooting, during the shooting and then after the shooting. And there's a couple of things that stood out to me. Now, as far as planning ahead of time, people are speculating that it may have been a really coordinated effort. I don't know if I buy into that yet. I mean, it's
The
something to
vehicles
consider.
that were there.
That's it. So right after the shooting, a dark Dodge Charger speeds up, comes to a stop. People get out. Apparently, they were picking up the the spent shell casings. And I was listening to, I think it was on Tim Pool's show
Yeah.
last night. He had the what's the dude's name? He was one of the big ones on Twitter that's providing a lot of this footage. Who said that apparently this Charger shows up at all these sorts of events, and like there's something that these on the ground journalists are aware of, is like this Charger that just, it's everywhere. Whenever shit's going down, there's this Charger somewhere in the background. Now, whether it's the same one or not, who knows? But I just thought it was very interesting, and I'm really curious to see what else bubbles up from that. It's too early to really make a decision, but did you guys see that video? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I remember Tim Pool had done a video on that, and he kind of downplayed it. And again, we're delving into the commentator's perspective there. Mm-hmm. But what Fox had just brought up there is, you're thinking about that, it's like, okay, well, if you're seeing this, and you got all these different folks live streaming and taking videos and stuff, one would think you might get the plate. Now, again, if somebody really was trying to do something, I mean, yeah, you could swap it out for whatever type of plate you want there. But I'll be straight up. Even when Henrik was out, he was at a roving rally over in Chicago, because that's where he's from. He was there. He got shot at. Like, we have the video of that on the NewsQuest channel. You can feel free to check that out at I believe it's youtube.com/newsquest. And the big thing, what we're trying to do there is to kind of like help fill in that gap, because you see clips, and yeah, I have an edited clip up there, but what we're trying to do is put together an archive. So it's like, if you want to be an on-the-ground NewsQuest journalist, hey, power to you. It's like, I don't really care what your political leanings are, as long as you send us the full raw file. That's the big thing, because even on Brett Weinstein's little Dark Horse podcast last night that he launched, one of the big things that I believe, I forget the young lady's name, but she works for Reason Magazine, and she's been covering a lot of these demonstrations, and she uses the word demonstration because it's like, okay, well that's what it is, because demonstration can be encompassing of peaceful protests as well as violent riots, because there are people out there. And what Brett had kind of brought up, it's like, all right, well, you can take as much video as you want, and then you could just take whatever type of clip out of context. It's kind of like, you'll see folks take people out of context all the time, whether it's Speaker Pelosi, President Trump, somebody, or whoever it might be. If you just take an isolated quote, it's like, well, that could seemingly be damning, but then again, if you actually have the full context, it's like, oh, maybe that makes more sense. And that's one of the things. It's like, most folks, like even in the situation with Covington, you had that whole situation. It's like, you see a little 15, 20-second clip. If somebody just has the context, it's like, this person is being disrespectful to a Native American elder. It's like, that is horrific. But when you see everything up there, and it's just like, oh, well, as far as he knows, nobody's actually really said anything to him. They're just kind of like doing like some form of like a chant or something. It's like, oh, I'm part of that and everything. It's like, all right, well, that's kind of cool. It's like, you don't necessarily know whether it's something salacious. And again, you don't know what's in another person's head nor heart. And, oh, just the other thing is, before the gentleman, basically in that Vice interview, you could say maybe he was trying to virtue signal or something like that, or maybe did that have anything to go into what happened with the police? But it's like, he's like, oh, it felt like it was the start of like a civil war or something. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, I hear a lot of folks talking about this, and I think I even left a comment on Tim Pool's video earlier. I'm like, I wonder if he watched these videos. Because that's the thing. On YouTube, it's like, you can have everyone you follow publicly listed. You can have it all privately listed there. And I tend to think that a lot of folks, and like even within more of the entertainment fandoms and stuff, like the Fandom Menace and stuff like that, a lot of these folks, they follow different folks, whether it's Momology, Tim Pool, Styx Hexenhammer, something like that. It's like, these are folks that do have large followings and everything. They are influencers. And this is kind of my gripe with Tim Pool and stuff, and why I poke. And don't get me wrong, I like Tim Pool just because I like to get the information, but then I also factor in, I'm like, I honestly don't think the man can make a negative video about President Trump right now, because I don't think it's in his interest. I think he would actually maybe even lose subscribers and stuff like that. Again, I might be completely wrong here, but if you're following narrative format, and if anybody here has watched Professor Jordan Peterson, it's like, well, narrative is basically life. We go through and set up in our heads what makes sense to us, given our viewpoints and everything, our life experience, and just how we see the world, because it needs to make sense. Because if it doesn't make sense, you're going to go freaking crazy. So I've been bloviating. What say you, gentlemen?
Well, first I want to just say it was Drew Hernandez. That's the gentleman I was speaking about yesterday, or referring to on the Tim Pool show yesterday. It's hard to really know what's going on. I think that jumping any definite conclusions about any of the stuff that's happening right now is probably not the best way to approach it. But I like hearing different analysis from different people. You know, whether it's Tim Pool or Styx, like you said, Styx Axe and Hammer. I love listening to him. And I don't always agree, and I wouldn't mind if like Tim were to say something negative about Trump. I'm a big Trump supporter. I mean, I'm not one of those people that's going to say he's perfect, because he's not, but he is, I think, the right person. But whatever, if someone has something critical to say, that's fine. I'm not going to stop listening to them. But you're right, there are people that would. It's hard to know how much of what people say publicly is based on whether or not they're going to lose subscribers, gain subscribers, what's popular, what's not. I don't know. What about you, CM?
In regards to what? Like of what happened, or like the framework you were talking about?
How about with individuals' interests and stuff? Basically, if you have a YouTuber that
stories you're talking about the shoot, I honestly don't know enough to really, like, if you give me a brief overview, I just don't know enough about because like in regards to my emotional diet, I try to avoid
that's wise, and I've actually cut down myself.
Like,
so
I don't want to look at people just like murdering each other. Like,
but you know what's funny is that it's hard for me to like. I can't fathom not like knowing what all's going on. So when I hear from people like CM, you know, or even like if I'm talking to my parents or my brother or something,
does this sway your vote?
They have
though?
no clue what's going on. You know,
but
with this
I mean,
stuff.
But like to me, like
it's good for them. I mean, it
wouldn't sway my vote though.
Right. Well, you're coming at it from a very basically as objective as basically humanly possible, and also trying not to get caught up in the cult of personality. But not to rag on Tim Pool, but I'm going to rag on Tim Pool for just a second. Again, I do appreciate ways of
publicity is good publicity. So check out his channel.
Well, exactly. And as you can see, dude, I'm subscribed and everything to him.
Yeah.
I have my little bell on and everything. But when you look at it, and David Pakman, kind of when they did their little debate.
Look at the picture of Biden.
Well, this is why I say I don't think at least in his interest he could do something negative about the president, because if you just look at the titles and the thumbnails, like you just said, first initial glance, Democrats panting, Democrats issue veiled threat, Democrats make panic desperate plea, Democrats predicted landslide victory, Biden campaign is spiraling, Trump takes major polling lead. It's like I don't know, if I just look cursory, I'd say well he seems to be. I would assume he was a Republican, just at first.
But he's not. I'm sort of a late comer to the whole Tim Pool's whatever world. It's only the last couple of months that I've really paid attention and sort of noticed him. But if I'm not mistaken, he's not a Republican and not a Trump supporter necessarily. I think he is now, but not always correct.
All of the catchy words were in red though.
But that's YouTube. That's getting people to watch. You can't
right. No. But what I'm saying is, let's face it. I've literally had folks say that basing their news off of a video title, and I'll be straight up. I'm completely guilty of all of a sudden someone says something. It's like, well, rather than having me to explain the nuance, I'm just going to send a link that has a title that basically proves my point, which I've totally done, and I'm pretty sure I've used a Tim Pool video as well. So at least people it's literally the ultimate game of telephone as well. It's like, all right, well, somebody's saying something here. Well, this is obviously what they're saying. And to be fair, like you were saying, Chris, if you actually get into the nitty-gritty of the video, it's like, will he actually bounce a lot of the stuff out and say, oh, no, yeah, the Republicans, yeah, they're no good either and everything. It's like, oh, okay, no, I get that. But you say that, and again, this is why I say a lot of it is mimetic-based, is because you say that, but it's kind of like a throwaway comment, kind of like when President Trump at the time was like, yes, I am endorsing Senator John McCain for re-election. You said the words. We don't really think you're that genuine about it as well. And to be fair, you did say the words. You did say the words. But what people take away, and then when I'm hearing the passion and conviction in somebody's voices, and maybe this comes from being basically a corporate shill for a number of years, working in sales, it's like you can have conviction and say,
of corporate shills out there that we
well, and that's the thing. And if you say something with so much conviction and passion, sometimes people won't even be listening to the words coming out of their mouth to be like, you know what, I am sold. And it's like, I remember because I've had people literally purchase things off of me. I'm like, well, this doesn't necessarily make sense for the person, but it's like, well, I'm getting paid for this, so it's like, all right. And I'm also not in sales anymore. Well, to be fair, YouTube is technically kind of sales. My
It's all
thing
sales.
is, well, my thing is, and maybe I've done myself a little bit of a disservice because it's like, all right, let me try to give a basic analysis, try not to swing one way or another, try to entertain both sides. And it's like, all right, well, that doesn't always seem to be the most popular thing. So, and again, this is why I'm more of a fan of kind of like a daily show type of thing. And you know what? There ain't nothing wrong with going at whatever side there is. So go on, sir.
I got one we can talk about.
Go on.
Well, what month is it? September, right?
Mm-hmm.
What month just went by? August. Biden raised $364 million in 1 month.
It's a lot of money.
Yeah, that's a lot. Usually one bill. I remember when it was Obama and Romney, I think those might have been the first billion ever. And they were both, I think Romney was 1 billion, like 1.0, and Obama was 1.1. I'm pretty confident in those numbers, but it was barely a billion. Biden did 364 in 1 month. I don't know if the other months, how they are, but 364, that is a lot of money in 1 month.
Well, and I believe also at that time, candidate Trump actually won the election with, what was it, like 600 million or something? I think it was actually less than $1 billion. So
it was a lot less than.
But how much free advertising did you get from everyone trash talking?
Yes. No. I think they said that equated up to $2 to $3+ billion in free marketing and stuff.
He's
that
literally
also
a brand.
pissed off
he
a
runs
large
on being a brand.
majority of the country. Yes, but is that necessarily what you want for your president? And again, that's my argument. And the thing is, it's like, and this is what bothers me about a lot of the media, because it's like, all right, I understand that there are plenty of things you can legitimately go after the president after. But when you start focusing on like this little nitty gritty, and it's like unnamed sources are saying this, and that, it's like, okay, it's like, I'm sorry, you're starting to get the media that cried Trump syndrome here. It's like, okay, how many of these things are actually holding up? And I literally stand by, what was it? Michael, what was Donald Trump's alias? He had an alias. Yeah, no, he would call in and everything. I swear that dude is effing with people, because I'm pretty sure like he's either calling in tips, or it would not surprise me in the least if the president would have a number of advisors come in one at a time and tell each of them a different thing.
Sounds like a good use of time as leader of the free world.
I mean, if you're trying to find leakers and stuff, I can understand that point, but it's like you're also sowing mass confusion and everything. And this is where I'll go back and quote UCM. It's like, yeah, at least when President Obama was president, you're always like, well, there's at least an adult in the room. I might not agree with him, and I say it's a person that didn't vote for President Obama either time. So
one thing I want to say is, who do you think, in general, the media wants to win?
well, I don't know. What do we think of MC's statement there? How much free advertising does every Dem get from positive spin in the press?
Yeah, they get a lot.
Well, I mean, yeah, there's advertising, but what I meant with Trump, though, is obvious. I'm not going to deny that, like, in general, the media is much more left. I'm not going to deny that. I mean, I'm a registered independent in Massachusetts, but everybody, like, even though, free advertising, you're talking about, like, the Dems and stuff, yeah, they get the positive spin from most of the legacy media, but those same sources constantly talk about Trump. They could be bashing him. It could be negative spin, but it's still publicity. And when you have that in conjunction with Hillary and Biden not campaigning, that's a big deal. When literally you have a 24-hour news cycle of, even if it's a negative, spin on Trump, all you're hearing is Trump. That's all you're hearing.
He's gotten really good at thriving in that sort of in those conditions. I don't think most people would be able to survive as long and be as successful despite all the negativity, all the the resistance. Not to use that term because I know there's the whole resistance, whatever. But
We know.
yeah, I mean, he's up against all the negative. I mean, this stuff like the Atlantic article that came out last night. That's an extreme example, but the watered down, like the Russia collusion and stuff, for how many years did that go on? And even Biden's doing the fine people hoax still, and all the just disproving, making fun of handicapped people, all that stuff he has to deal with, and he's continuing to succeed despite all that. So, I mean,
because both ways,
like his style or not, I mean, he's managed to find a way to make it work for him, which I think that deserves credit.
Which Atlantic article? The Americans. Americans who died in war.
Exactly, where they're saying that he skipped the trip to the cemetery overseas because he thought that the dead soldiers were losers. And I mean, it's the most ridiculous. He's the most pro-military. I know veterans here in North Carolina that have been directly affected and directly affected. What's gone on in the Trump administration as far as policy for the VA and for veterans' rights and stuff. So he's like the most pro-military sort of person you could ask for in the Oval Office. And this article is just, I mean, unnamed sources. Come on, we can see through this.
I believe there were 2 unnamed sources, and even Greta Van Susteren on Twitter pointed out to the person that had tweeted that, who actually, I believe she had worked at the Fox News channel, said that, well, somebody that worked could have even been Scaramucci, who, for his 11 days, lasted for almost as long as a gallon of milk.
Yeah,
I love Scaramucci. He's consistently in attack mode. He would be damn good in a debate against Trump.
Well, that's the thing, because he's another Trump-like character. He's literally like the 80s businessman or 80s business guy from Futurama personified, and he actually kind of looked like the guy, too.
Yeah, but he's no joke. Like, look at his education, like, background history.
Oh, no, he's very successful. I mean, he sold
No, he's very intelligent. But one thing MC said, where was it? We know the press will never ask an embarrassing question. The first debate is September 29th or whatever. I mean, I agree. They're going to be, throwing some softballs. I'm not going to disagree with that. First debate's coming up soon, though. Three weeks from this Tuesday, first debate. So that's a good point. Let's see what kind of questions and possible discrepancy between Trump and Biden. In the first debate, I have to look up who is doing it. Is it the CNN? Is it the NBC? Is it
I think it's Chris Wallace.
Chris Wallace?
Now that was the thing. Is there an actual Fox News one? Because I had heard something about Fox News wasn't even going to host one of the debates, which just in my mind,
it might not be them, but it could be like some of their guys and girls. I mean, it won't be like Hannity or like whatever. Obviously.
Well, my thing is, it's like you can put who you want, but you just need to have some form of balance. It's like, all right, well, if you're going to have Rachel Maddow there, it's like,
who do you say?
Have a Tucker Carlson or something like that. Like, try to balance it out somewhat there.
What about Joe Rogan? He's not a shill.
That would be interesting.
That would be very interesting. Actually, that might solve a lot of the world's problems. It's like, you know what? We're going to put you both in a cryo chamber, and we're going to do a lot of MDMA.
The reason why I'm mentioning Rogan, too, is...
I'm jesting. Follow laws.
He has a large audience. That's not the traditional legacy media, too. And he can extend out substantially more to people, 20s, 30s, even 18, 19-year-olds, that are, that can vote. It's a different kind of demographic.
It's in when we talk about
general,
like the youth thing.
I'm guessing Rogan's average listener or watcher is, you know what I mean, kind of younger, you know.
Right. But what MC brings up here, he says CNN is being denied a debate.
Oh, is that true?
Is this accurate? Like,
I'm checking right now.
I'm not sure how these are.
let's take a quick look at this article.
All right, so the first one.
Go on.
Let's see. First one is September 29th, and that's with Chris Wallace.
3 weeks from
The
this
vice
Tuesday.
presidential debate is October 7th, which is going to be with Susan Page from the, USA Today. Second presidential debate, October 15th. Steve Scully from C-SPAN. Then the third and final will be
C-SPAN, that's good.
Kristen Welker from NBC News.
Oh yeah, I know who she is.
So no CNN. Good. F them.
Wait, when's the Kristen Welker one?
Which one?
Welker. When is she? I know who she is.
That was the 22nd of October. That's the third and final
that's supposed to be the
presidential debate.
election. Wow.
Yeah.
So no, I'm reading through this article and I'm looking at
12
this and
days
it's like,
before wow.
so this was the Atlantic article from yesterday. We're basically saying that President was disparaging troops and stuff. And according to this, it's saying Trump rejected the idea of the visit because he feared his hair would become disheveled in the rain.
That's
because he
something
did not believe it important to honor American war
That's something
dead.
I would complain about.
I mean, I'll be straight up. I mean, that sounds like a lot of BS. I mean, if anything, I can kind of almost believe maybe some of this when it's like, well, you couldn't take the chopper in. And the secrets, that just sounds like BS in general.
He probably,
right there.
He probably complained, but he didn't go to that extent. He wanted to make one comment.
Right.
Kind of a thing. And then they latched onto that and be like, oh my God, he mentioned one kind of complaint. You know what I mean? Like,
no, apparently there is
I can't go
substantial evidence that, the weather was...
Time, you know, like...
apparently there is, plenty of evidence to support the fact that the weather was not good and that's why they weren't able to fly in. But just think about, like, there's the Atlantic. I don't read the Atlantic. I don't subscribe to the Atlantic. I don't know who the Atlantic is. I've heard of them, I've read stuff. But, they're writing stuff that's so preposterous because he didn't want to mess up his hair. Are you kidding me? Like,
you want to know what's interesting? When I went to actually look for this on the Googles, what was it? Well, no. Watch this because
why not
that comes up. That comes up on search. But when you actually click on news, and I'm just searching Atlantic Trump, the first Atlantic article that actually comes up is who's putting these ideas in his head. So it looks like a completely different article.
No, but you gotta listen. That doesn't even make sense though. The whole hair thing. You could just like they have umbrellas,
yeah, he's gotten out with goofy looking hair before.
He makes fun of his hair.
He let Jimmy Kimmel.
There's no doubt that
I think that was it wasn't Kimmel. It was who's the other guy, but that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, yeah.
It's
right.
no mystery that like his hair is like a hairpiece. Like that also has zero to do with being president. Like zero.
I heard it was magical though, because I thought Homer Simpson got like stuck in it or something. Because we must not forget that the Simpsons predicted a President Trump, who would actually end up having the country run out of money before President Simpson takes over. Oh, how right they were.
Yeah, we're gonna run out of money for a while.
Printing a lot of it.
War ain't cheap.
Joey, come now. Are you saying people that especially are into politics will be putting up propaganda?
Joey,
that's...
Joey, I got a question for you. Who do you think all three of us are voting for?
I'm not sure he'd be... he lives over in Kuwait, so he doesn't really follow a lot of our stuff, I would assume.
Even better, he's exposed to less BS then. I prefer to talk to people that are from other areas, honestly. No, like, honestly, like, you know me, like, I like talking to people from other countries.
Oh, that's...
Be curious.
I don't know if they like hearing me, but...
Well, that's all right. You're an interesting character. We can leave it at that for right now.
Yeah, well, our mutual friend thinks that you're more strange than me. One of the best compliments I've ever received in my life.
Well, I say this as a person who literally my channel intro video starts off with somebody saying, "Think of a weird person. Now make it more weird and look it up in the dictionary." It's like, oh, that's probably not an unfair statement. So aside from that, how about other news? You all hear about the Rocketeer?
Kim Jong.
No, what's up with this?
No.
Jetpack.
Yes. Apparently
I heard
over
about it, but I didn't dive into that.
Let's see. Hold on, I swear I can spell it. Jetpack guy. There we go. Well, we're assuming it's a guy. We cannot necessarily
Don't do that.
certain. So this was from 2 days ago. See, my thought is this story happened shortly after MC tweeted out a hover bike that he wanted but he could not afford. So MC, what were you doing over at LAX? Come on now. You know there's regulations. So I jest. I have no confirmation of that. But all right, well let's bring this bad boy right up right here. So yes. FBI investigating pilot's report of guy in jetpack flying 3,000 feet in air near planes at LAX.
3,000 feet? Wow, that's really high.
If you watch some of the new jetpack things, at least I think it was in UAE, they literally had a guy in a jetpack. He was up there for I think like 10 or 12 minutes, and he was several thousand feet in the air.
What did he have? Did he have a?
It was a heavy duty suit. It wasn't quite like stuff from like the Rocketeer.
Was he like exposure of his face or anything? I don't mean PPE, but did you guys have like a helmet?
I think
that's pretty high.
I don't know.
No, because like that.
Wearing a surgical mask.
No,
yeah, well,
flew up at 3,000 feet.
No. I mean, you can breathe and stuff like that. So our video will play in the next 2 seconds there. So all right, here we go. Let's see what we got. See if they got any footage.
Phil Schumann.
They're saying appear to be. Hold on. Do they actually have? Oh. JetBlue Flight 23 use caution. Person in jetpack reported. Oh, this is coming from the flight tower apparently. I don't think they actually have any.
But why did he do it at the airport? Was he flying around?
See, this is from UAE, I believe.
Yeah, that's like legitimate. Like, yeah, see, he's all covered up and stuff.
Right. Let's see. And again, this is a mystery. So
Only in LA.
Yes, but they're at least saying a second pilot also saw the instance. Pilots reporting it's using visual flight rules, meaning there was plenty of visibility and it wasn't dark at the time. Based on research, jetpacks can fly that high, but it's pretty uncommon. There's an assumption that people with the technical and financial ability to fly at this extreme height in Italy airport would also understand the regulations flying around LAX's flight path. So, you just take it from that. It's like, so if you have the money and the expertise to actually do that, one would probably know, maybe we shouldn't fly into oncoming flight paths. Yeah, that might be wise.
But memes, if let's say the guy did it in a field, guy, girl, like I'll use guy. Let's say the guy did it in like a field. It wouldn't garner like attention and we wouldn't be talking about it. Breaking news, not at an airport, just fly, you know what I mean? But in the airport, that's obviously like a cause for concern.
Right when you said that, my thought is, so who are some of the manufacturers of said jetpacks? Because we're all talking about it right now. Millions of other people have been exposed to this story and are probably Googling jetpacks. Yeah.
I mean, the rational, like the more beautiful area, like if I was doing it, wouldn't you want to go over a little body of water? You know what I mean? Nice scenery. Not in the airport. Like.
It sounds kind of like marketing.
Like, Chris, wouldn't you want to do it over, those nice lakes and stuff?
Yeah, but what if you've already flown there and now you want to try something different? I don't know. I think it's bizarre. I mean, maybe it's
hover bike, nice.
Maybe it's some goofy character like what's his name, the alien dude, Bob Lazar, the guy that made the jet-powered Honda back in the '80s and worked for.
He's on Rogan's.
Yeah, there was a documentary recently about his.
He puts a lot of stuff out, yeah.
But I mean, he's been proven to be fairly legitimate as far as being smart enough to do something crazy like that. There's other people like that are out there. Maybe it's just some do-it-yourself kind of guy that in his backyard decided I'm going to take it for a test flight. I mean, it's California. Weirder things have happened, I'm sure. Well, maybe not weirder than that. That's pretty bizarre, but you get the point.
You don't have to look very far. You can just look at your screen, and I'll just leave it at that.
There's just so much going on, and you're looking at it. I'm like, all right, hold on. I want to see these hover bikes.
I'm referring to you, memes.
All these things happen. No, that's GTA 3. All right. Oh, some guys apparently homemade. No, we'll just go to one of the more original ones here. So hover bike, Scorpion, world's first hover bike. All right, what we got? Oh, it actually helps if I share. So let's take. Oh, this is basically just a drone thing. Let's go say, MC, do you have the thingy? Send it with me on Twitter, because this right here, I'm just saying. All right. I mean, it's basically just a drone. That's basically you sit on
Like a
it like you would
motorcycle.
a motorcycle.
What
Yeah.
happens
That's awesome.
what happens when that breaks? So you don't bring it to like the Toyota dealership, though. You know, like, are you out like for a month? You get to like send it out. Bezos send a drone to like fix it. Like,
Once you send drones to fix drones and stuff like that, I don't know. We might all be turning into paper clips by then. Who knows?
what?
Oh, you know the thing where basically what happens? It's the paperclip thing where it's like, so what happens if you create a machine that's
Yeah, but
its only thing is to reproduce. So it's a paperclip machine that makes paperclips. So all it wants to do is make paperclips. So it ends up turning the universe into paperclips.
I mean, that's what humans are like. That's what all life is kind of designed to do, reproduce.
Well, I mean, I prefer to see more than just paperclips. That's just me, though. But, okay, so aside from that, apparently a few other things happened in the news. So apparently the president, folks are saying that he was insinuating to more or less vote early and vote often. Did y'all hear something about that?
I heard about that and I love it. I think it's great strategy because it gets you thinking. And if we're being told that it's safe to vote by mail, that we can do the mass mail-out voting because the system is such that no person can vote more than once. All right, let's test it. If no person can vote more than once, then it should block whichever ballot comes in second. So if you mail in vote and then you go vote in person, it should at some point say, you've already voted, so we're going to discard whatever comes in after that, or however that process would work. But the fact that he said it, it's going to get people talking about it. And the voting process, that's something that I wanted to talk about for the last couple weeks because it is such a big issue right now. And the potential for absolute catastrophe in November if we don't get this voting process right. I mean, it's inevitable. It's going to happen either way, probably. But I mean, has there ever been a time where we needed to have faith in the integrity of the election more so than this election? I certainly not in my lifetime that I can think of.
I got a pitch for you guys. Do you think election day should be like a national holiday?
I tend to think so.
Whatever needs to happen in order to make it happen safely, effectively, and without that cloud of doubt.
You think everyone should vote? I'm not saying you have to be forced, but you think everyone should vote, right?
Me personally, I think
not forceful. If you want to sit it out, but you think,
Personally, I feel like you should have a basic understanding about what it is you're voting for before you can vote. Now, I know that's that's extreme. It's not realistic in this country. Everyone should have the right to vote.
Yeah.
But do I think that everyone should vote? No, because I'll tell you a story. The very first time I voted, I didn't know half the people on the ballot. I checked names off because I recognize this name.
Yeah,
but it was stupid. It was a local election. It wasn't anything big.
How many people every single time how do I say it? What you mentioned, that's a lot of people.
Exactly. My neighbor has a sign. Well, what does this person represent? What is it that you're voting for them for?
I saw this sign a bunch of times, so I recognize it.
Exactly.
Or the name, like Kennedy and Markey. Like Kennedy Kennedy got a lot of vote. Like just if his name wasn't Kennedy, you know what I mean? Like how many?
Right.
Or Bush or Clinton, you know what I mean?
He also happened to be the first Kennedy in recent memory to lose in Massachusetts.
Yeah, but I mean, it was also bad timing. You're trying to primary like a progressive in Massachusetts like in 2020. It's just like it was a tough pitch.
This is the thing, and again, I had started to listen to some of the last debate between Senator Markey and Representative Kennedy, and I'm listening to it, and it's like, well, Ed Markey, do I agree with him on everything? No. Do folks get to bash him for doing the Green New Deal and slap him with the whole cow fart tax? Sure, they get to do that. But at the same time, it's like, and again, it's like, all right, like you said, he's a progressive in Massachusetts.
Yeah,
He's well-spoken. He's there. And I'm listening to Joe Kennedy. It's like, well, you didn't do this. It's like, okay, well, you can't do everything. It's like, we could probably criticize you about not necessarily doing enough for this and that. And aside from your name necessarily being Kennedy, it's like, well, why should we vote for you?
Well, and that's the thing too. So much of politics is like always, especially now in this climate. I think it's more important that, I mean, it won't happen. Unfortunately, I'm not optimistic with it. I wish candidates and just people in general would promote more of what they're going to do instead of what their opponent does not do or does incorrectly. You know what I mean? Like, I wish, like, Biden's going to go out there and just say Trump is this or that, he's horrible, blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay, Joe, tell me, Joe, what you are going to do. And even for Trump, he's gonna say Biden has dementia. Like, okay, Trump, tell me what, you know what I mean? I just wish there was more.
Well, to be fair, the Biden-Harris camp actually did say that they were going to pitch to make Election Day a national holiday.
Yeah, I'm all for that.
Yeah.
I'm all for whoever wants to do that. But them pitching it, you know what I mean? Oh my God, that's a...
Look at that. It's literally a speeder. It's freaking like Star Wars. 150 mile per hour max speed, 30-minute endurance.
30 minutes is not long.
Well, probably not at full throttle. Oh no, especially if you get to land. 1,200 pounds thrust capacity. Introducing the speeder. It is a little...
How much is it? Like,
wait, hold on. Oh god, this is terrifying. Recreational speeder. Or for flying motorcycle. Military/commercial speed. Commercial speeder? Dude, we're gonna get you your pizza in like 5 minutes or it's free.
Yeah, but what legally, what kind of license do you need for it? What kind of like, how do you register?
We are in, I would assume, FAA territory, because it's everything that's, once you get, I don't know, think however many feet and up, because that's the thing. Once you get into the skies, it's like technically, like if you happen to own a home, you technically own everything above and below it. However, as far as I understand it, the FAA does have regulations, so it's like, all right, a plane can fly over your house. Why? Well, because it's that freaking far up, and we want the airways to be clear. So
there are certain aircrafts that I believe you do not need a license to fly. It's not light sport. I think there's a light
originally
sport license, but
no, you are correct.
That
you could because I remember this.
Like
a gyrocopter, gyrocopter, because we were looking at getting one back in high school.
Yeah,
we were considering it.
Yeah, but memes, the 150 mile per hour, how much does that cost?
Well, I mean, that just seems to be the base model.
That's not. I'm asking, like, what's the price of this?
I'm thinking we have to request. I'm going to assume it's under more info, because like any good sales thing.
Are these even built though? This could be like those things like these sports cars in DuPont Registry. It's like 3,000 horsepower. It's like contact us. And it's just like all the concept schematics. It's like it's never even been built. You know, you can go 3 miles up.
Even if it's not available now, though, I mean, it sort of gives you a glimpse into what the future.
15,000 foot operating ceiling.
That's crazy.
Yeah, this might never get built, though. I hate to be pessimistic, but some of these things are.
Oh, $380,000.
Yeah, that's more than I was thinking, like 100.
Yeah, I mean, if I were to sell my home and not pay off debt and stuff, I could probably have one and fly it once with fuel. That's about it. My speeder at Jetpack Aviation. That is freaking awesome. That's brought to us by MC, that is freaking awesome, dude. I would love that.
That's pretty cool.
Let's check out the military one.
Well, getting back to the whole voting process and stuff, I was thinking, while we're looking at this, what about future ways of voting and allowing people to, make choices as far as the direction of either the local area or the country in general? Do we necessarily need to elect representatives, or could we vote on more of the issues if we can find a way to do it more efficiently? I guess that would be what it is. I understand the need to have, sort of a representative, someone who can, ask questions and, put proposals for, stuff like that. But as far as the actual issues, the big issues, is there a way where, I'm not suggesting that's at all feasible this time around, but at some point in the future where we could say, all right, well, we want to, there's this group wants to legalize marijuana or something, and people can vote on that issue rather than having to elect a representative who's going to vote on that issue for them a particular way.
We do for like the states, like when Massachusetts, like it went up for
there's a couple of ballot initiatives.
Euthanasia, marijuana, so there are certain things. A lot of people
ballot actions.
Yeah, like the questions on ballots. Those are some of the most important things you can do. You know what I mean? Like there was the big wave of medicinal and recreational marijuana going on, and a lot of people who don't smoke, never have, are like, hey, tax. You know what I mean? It's going to bring in revenue, get people to maybe go. You know what I mean?
And that's another concern that I have as far as the election process, is that on the national scale, the Electoral College, the fraud that happens if we do universal mail-out or mail-in voting, however you want to phrase it, it may or may not be enough to really shift the results of the presidential election. But on the local level, it can make or break the difference. And I'll give you an example. Here in North Carolina, District 9, 2018, I busted my ass for the Republican congressional candidate, Mark Harris. Time, money, effort, and we won on election day. It was awesome. We had a great time, and then find out that some consultant that his campaign had hired on the other side of the district had, I think that he won the district by like 900 and something votes. So it was a lot, but not really. But this consultant had requested and I guess filled out and mailed in over 1,000 absentee ballots. This is a Republican, so to say it's like, oh, the Democrats are going to cheat, maybe, but it's just as likely on the Republican side as well. I'm very concerned about what's going to happen because the local elections are going to be what's affected. 1,000 votes not going to make or break the presidential election, but at the local level, that matters.
Well, I mean, the year 2000, Bush v. Gore would disagree with you on that instance there.
Well,
however, we're talking about that, so they found out about it.
They caught
him.
They had to trash the whole election. They had to redo it. And to be honest, that was one of the breaking points for me where I said, you know what, like being involved at that level and the local level on the ground and stuff, just I don't. And again, kind of tying into what I was saying before, it's not that I agreed with 100% of his policy stuff. It was like a little bit more than the Democrat, but whatever. I mean, that's neither here nor there as far as what we're talking about at this point. But yeah, the election was trashed. They had to redo the entire election because one consultant or consultant group, messed with at least 1,000 ballots, they said.
Now, I personally think, I believe in Massachusetts that we're going to have ranked choice up for a state thing, because I remember we had on the ballot last time for more of local elections over here. And it's something interesting. At the time, I'm like, you know what? Let's see how this works out. Because now it's like, I believe that gives a lot of viability to a potential third party, because it's like, unless either of the major parties have an overwhelmingly popular candidate that can get the most of it, it's like, well, I don't like them, so my second choice might actually be somebody more moderate. I think that might solve a lot of that. And then here's another thing that I actually found out from, I believe it was Mitch and Arthur over on Rhetorical Entertainment, I believe. I think actually they may have changed the channel name. My apologies on that. But it's the Permanent Appropriation Act. And this is something that I just kind of found out about. So if we take a look at this right here. Okay, so this was June 11th, 1929. On this date, the House passed the Permanent Appropriation Act of 1929, fixing the number of representatives at 435. The U.S. Constitution called for at least one representative per state, and that no more than one for every 30,000 people.
I'll be right back.
Yeah, no worries. But okay, so Chris, so my thing right here is I'm looking at this. In the Constitution, it says no more than one representative per 30,000 individuals here. Now, it doesn't say that you need to do that, but that was generally
no less, just no more.
Well, exactly. So this is how you could say it is constitutional where they cap that, but at the same time, you look over there, and then we do also have Apparently, this is from 2008. This has been around for around 30-1000.org, basically bringing it back to that. So if you're looking at that, because we have around like 300 million or so people here, it's like, all right, well, that would mean the House of Representatives would literally look like the Senate from Star Wars, more or less. You'd have like 10,000 people there, and folks are like, oh, you can't do that. You can't. Really? We don't have one, arenas, and two, we're literally already doing things by the internet. You're saying that we couldn't do this by the internet? Yes, I realize healthcare.org didn't have the most spectacular rollout, but at the same thing, it's like, oh, well, if we got folks like AOC saying that, well, if it was a different system, she wouldn't be in the same party as Nancy Pelosi, and you got a lot of conservatives that might not be in the same place as Republicans. It's like, oh, well, this sounds like it would actually explain a lot. And this would also grant proportionally more power to the Senate or positions of senators. However, the House still controls the power of the purse. So yeah, Fox, what are your thoughts on having like 10,000 representatives in the U.S. House of Representatives?
So I just got back from peeing. What was the question? I'm sorry.
Basically, in 1929, the House or the Congress passed what they call it, the Permanent Apportionment Act. So basically, they fixed the number of representatives in the House at 435, because originally in the Constitution it says basically at least one representative per state, and that no more than one for every 30,000 persons. So basically, right now, each representative is representing like 700 something thousand people, something like that. Basically, if we actually had better representation, more proportionate, I tend to think we would actually normalize a lot of things, and we could actually make change, we could actually make progress, and actually more appropriately express the will of the people. Would it be a major dynamic change from what we have? Yeah, I do think we can do it, so what say you, gents?
I'm open to it. I'm open to a change where, I don't know what the best answer is, but there's always room for improvement. So I don't know if 10,000 representatives is the answer, but
you wouldn't want to see like a big chamber like in Star Wars, so we could be like, this is how democracy dies, by thunderous applause.
Hold on. What are you talking about? You're saying that instead of using like Congress and all of like everything, it'd be 10,000 total representatives?
The House of Representatives right now has 435 people from all the different states. The Senate has a fixed 2 senators per state or commonwealth. So what this would do is it would base it upon every 30,000 people. So let's say Massachusetts, we got like 6 million folks here. So you take 6 million and divide it by 30,000. So we'd end up having what, like, I don't know, like 200 representatives?
I mean, I don't know. I don't think that would. I would just be pessimistic, just from a snapshot point of view.
Or even not that, but basically getting it closer to that. I mean, you could argue that, well, maybe we could increase. But my thing is, and again, this kind of goes to having more people vote. I think a lot of issues end up solving themselves if we have more and more people actually engaging in the process. Like in Australia, you have to show up. It's technically a law that you need to show up at the polling area. You don't need to vote, but the thought is, if you at least show up at the polling area while you're there, you might as well vote. This is why I'm always like, we should offer free pizza. People would show up and express their opinion. That'll get you in trouble now. Well, you could say it's bribe, but as long as it's equal and everything, and then people would nitpick, and then somebody would probably get sick and ruin it for... This is the thing. I have no idea. But I just look at it, I'm like, that's fascinating, because that's something I had never really remember. So, I don't
know if I want 200 people in Massachusetts. Like,
I don't know.
There's more points of failure, I think, that could... Because a lot of averages amongst those 200 people, how many of them are going to have, certain ambitions, or not even ambitions, just, like motive. You get what I'm saying? Like,
but we would average it out. Is it better to have more folks that might potentially have issues or have less folks that might potentially have issues.
But what's the point? Like, what's like the number? I mean, I don't know.
To average it out.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know enough about that. Like with 30,000, like.
The idea was, and again, you can make arguments saying that, well, we can be more in touch with the people because we do have the internet, but even during the pandemic, we found there are a lot of kids that were doing virtual classes that at the time literally didn't have the internet at home. So these are different dynamics. We have different technology. Not everyone necessarily has access to the technology.
But that's going to change. But that like argument, or not argument, like that point of view, I think is it's only going to decrease. Imagine 5-10 years access from internet. Think of 2010 to now. Think of now to 2030. There's only going to be more advantageous technologies that come out that will kind of like bypass, like like poverty-ridden areas from not having internet. You know what I mean? Like there's already been talk about like Facebook, Google, like implementing some of those, like the balloons or whatever. Like that will get fixed. At least I hope it does.
Right. But the thought is, if rather than having however many folks you have, so it's like, all right, so we got 2 senators from Massachusetts, and then we have how many reps do we have? Oh, goodies, I don't know this. I am absolutely terrible. I'm a bad member of the Commonwealth here. But let's say you got a dozen or so. Well, that's the thing. It's like, if you, rather than having like 12 representatives, it's like, all right, well, if you had 200, it's like, so rather than trying to cover like 700,000 people, it's like, well, if you're representing like the 30,000 people or so in your district, maybe you're keeping it on maybe more of a smaller scale that ends up being used as a derivative for what we do on a macro scale. I don't know. And again, like you said, it's a thought. It's just something I literally came across in the past week, and I thought it was interesting.
I think these are the sorts of discussions that should be happening because think America's great. It's probably one of the best countries out there as far as the system. It seems to work pretty well, but it's not perfect, so there's always room for improvement. I think that is one area that maybe there is something we could do over the next. Who knows what sort of time frame that change would occur, but it's at least worth exploring the options that are available and seeing what possibilities there are.
Means quickly what touch base on dueling. I want to hear your pitch.
Oh yeah, because
what could go wrong?
Yeah. No, because I was getting ready to do a PSA, a very angry PSA before I did this stream, about basically all the violence in America. I'm probably going to have to do one as well. And I was basically just going to say, F this, let's just bring back dueling. Why do I say that? Well, because one, I have been working around on a dueling video for some time now, kicking it around. And at this point, it's like, all right, you got so many folks that literally just hate each other, that just literally are killing one another over politics and everything. My thing is, you end up having all these folks talking about civil war this, civil war that, trying to drag everyone into it. I'm like, all right, if you got 2 consenting adults that hate each other and that literally want to end each other, all right, well, give them a forum and leave all the good folks in the center that don't want to be a part of it out. Basically, and we also do have historical precedent for this. We literally had a president of the United States that went up and gave a State of the Union speech with a bullet in him as well. I don't think he lasted that much longer after giving the State of the Union as well. But as a sheer fact, we had precedent for this, and I do also think in some ways it also made it a more polite society in some ways. Because if one of the big issues we have right now is people are grossly offended at what other people are doing, it's like, well, if somebody insulted your honor and everything, what did you do? You pull out your little white dueling glove, you slap someone across the face to be like, you have offended my honor, I challenge you to a duel. Now, that opens up an entire can of worms in and of itself, because, fraud. My thing is, especially on the internet, it's like, all right, well, if somebody does something that's completely over the line, a lot of folks understand that. If somebody just says an off-the-cuff thing and you're just going to like kind of feign outrage because of this or that, or maybe you're just pretending your fifis are hurt or something, it's like, okay, well, people can realize that's BS there. However, if you truly do something and you're directly attacking somebody and stuff and you are offending their honor, it's like, well, now you have a legal means to do it. And you can turn it down. That's the thing. It's like, if you're going to contractually engage in something like that between two adults, you would need to have offer and acceptance. Now, the consideration is essentially, potentially, your life. But if you're going to have that, it's like, okay, you could turn it down. But if it actually was a major offense, well, you're essentially just going to be publicly shamed. Folks will be like, oh, well, you're a coward, and or whatever you said, you don't have the courage of your convictions. Because my big thing is, I hear all these folks, whether it's left, right, up, or down, like they're making it seem like, you must do this. It's important for our nation's sake, and they're making it sound like they're willing to put their life on the line. My question is, how many of these folks are really willing to put their life on the line when it actually came down to it? And if that actually happened, or, because, I mean, these folks, I mean, they wouldn't be saying these things if they didn't truly believe it, and they would put it down, because otherwise that would just be, I don't know, what, being a shill? I don't know. What say you?
As long as it's...
What method do you have for this?
I mean, you could do whatever you want. I know MC's preferred method is by longsword till first blood.
This is like...
I mean, to be fair, you could actually just do a Yu-Gi-Oh card game as well, because it is a form of a duel. I mean, you could do pistols at first dawn, like the Colonel from The Simpsons did.
This is not like intellectually consistent at all. You're talking about like potentially battling to the death, but the caveat is you could also play a card game.
Well, I mean, again, you could set the stipulation. You could, again, this is just an idea. And remember, I pitched this before the show.
How about this? Everyone just go to Portland.
This would just
No, this is to prevent those things from happening. Because here's the thing. This is the thing. It's like, no, because, okay, you get the Proud Boys heading up there on, like, September 26th and stuff like that. And it's like, you know what's going to happen. There will be, and you know what, it could just be somebody from out of town that just throws the first stone, literally, and then ends up causing chaos, and then you end up having a bunch of folks that were out there. Some folks like, well, we're protesting fascists. Oh, we're protesting commies and stuff like that. It's like, really? So you're going to freaking try to ignite a civil conflict? I'm like, screw this. If these folks hate each other, in the words of Dr. Serizawa, let them fight.
Yeah, well,
leave everyone else alone.
This is the real world, and like sanctioning like murder amongst people that are already kind of like mentally unstable.
Dueling? No.
Significant other, you know, who just want to hop off their video games they've been playing because they have nothing else to do. And nothing's wrong with video games. You want to do it, whatever. This would just incentivize people from groups to just, like, you know, look for more reasons to promote anger. Basically, someone who's already on the fence would just say, now I can potentially, you know, stretch out my anger and hatred towards another person and or group. And then you would just have people looking to start a duel. Someone who's like, I'm a little bit angry towards this person or these group of people, but if we could duel, it's going to just instill and embed more anger within them. It would be an absolutely horrible idea.
But wouldn't it also act as a form of potential? I realize this is whole savage and barbaric that we're talking about this, but the sheer fact that I've even been on Discords with many logical thinking folks, and they gave more or less the same answer, it's like, I'm curious. I don't know if that's the answer, but go on. The sheer fact that so many... exactly. No, I agree. It doesn't make it right. But the sheer fact that you have folks, it also acts as a form of... There are folks that are very hateful that would look to start things, and this is a form, kind of an entropy for people that want to engage in violence. In or that, slowly you're going to...
Or you could, reallocate the media... from talking about, you could just like the better way would just actually engage in a rational conversation, promote education on the topics, and not cover those stories as much.
Right, but we have the First Amendment and a capitalistic system. So the sad thing is dueling might actually be more likely. That's a terrible thing to say, but again, it adds an extra dynamic.
Dueling is not going to get sanctioned. There will not be dueling. Because then everyone would be meeting in the city to duel one another.
Or we could become more polite.
Yeah, dueling won't promote that. Memes. Dueling will not make people more polite. When someone's neighbor or cousin got killed in the duel, they're not going to say, you know what? It's great. I'm going to be polite today. They're going to be like, oh my god, my cousin just got like his throat slit. Terrible idea. Stop romanticizing murder.
CM, how seriously are you taking this though? Because yes, in theory, it is possible
For
that
memes,
it could happen.
no, but
Yeah.
because he's rational. But other people out there would, yeah, probably be
Well,
down
you
with
see
it.
what's important. You see what's in the cities that have the
My-
riots and all that stuff.
Yeah, and none of us would partake in that.
Th-
You,
Exactly.
me,
no,
myself, we are
but
not violent.
this is why. And again, I've been kicking around this video and getting some footage for it, doing a little research, kind of like as a bit of a joke. But now I'm literally seeing more and more Americans killing Americans. So it's literally gone from should we bring back dueling to I'm going to pitch it more as like a modest proposal. Let's bring back dueling. And anybody that's read A Modest Proposal remembers that it starts off with, well, there seems to be a food shortage over in the UK, and ultimately, over the course of several pages, it ends up getting to the point where it's like, yes, let's cook infants. And you're like, what the heck? So I'm pitching it like that, and the fact is, if we didn't have historical precedent, I understand that, but dueling is actually still legal. It's just non-lethal dueling. So basically, you can have a cage match.
God, those are professional like cage fighters. That, like, you know what I mean? There's referees and there's a state athletic commission.
No. That's why I'm like,
wrestling, wasn't that a thing back in the day?
shh,
Huh?
shh. We don't want to talk about Slay Road Wrestling. It's all right. It's all right. I may or may not have gone powerbomb through a flaming table, but that's another story. But
I know nothing about this, but
it's I know there might be a videotape somewhere. Who knows?
I think
But
you need to find it.
We're a little over an hour, gentlemen. Your final thoughts as we're driving CM off the wall.
I had way too much caffeine.
No such thing.
I just had 2 bangs. Yeah, so if you don't hear from me later, like, I died at the gym.
Well, we'll try to avenge your death.
My heart rate, and like I have a certain point which I don't exceed. Quick update. Prediction election. I do it every time just to see, just for fun. You know me, I love predictions and stuff. As of right now, who? Not today, but like looking forward to election day. Who you guys favoring?
Gut reaction. I really, it's hard to say. I was kind of towards Trump. I'm slowly going a little bit back to Biden, but I'm still leaning a bit on the Trump edge right now.
Yeah, I'd say 50. I give it's a coin flip, but if I had to pick, I would say I'm leaning towards Trump. More likely than not winning. I mean, being the incumbent is a big advantage. So.
Well, you guys can probably guess who I think is going to win, but again, it's sort of I'm concerned about the election process itself. I think that's going to really make a big
Trump
difference.
Might win election night, but then like when the mail-in come in, that it tips to Biden. A lot of data.
Well, I mean, that's what they're floating, but
Yeah.
I don't necessarily buy it. But just the fact that we may not know on election night, I think that's not good.
That's why I took the next day off from my office, because I don't think it's going to be 10, 11 o'clock at night.
It's going to be really interesting to see what happens. I mean, I just see it being a cluster. You know what?
Real quick.
wins.
Apparently, Facebook is doing a survey asking if folks are willing to deactivate their Facebook account the week of the election and for up to 6 weeks following, and how much would it cost them to pay you to do that?
I already deactivated mine.
Well, let's face it. Well, that kind of sounds, at least in my opinion, that Facebook is saying we realize people using this platform may end up instigating violence because of the things people would say.
I think the violence that happened with or without Facebook.
Yeah, I mean we're not babies. You can't handheld. If not, they'll go to Instagram, which they own, or Twitter.
No. It deactivates your Facebook and Instagram, apparently.
Something else.
So there's Twitter.
No, I really. Well, yeah.
A million other platforms.
Plenty of salacious places where we can kind of instantly offend our fellow Americans and folks across the globe. But final general thoughts. CM.
Just in general, or
just in general for just what's going on stuff. Just whatever you got to say.
One thing I would want to keep in mind. I hope it doesn't happen, but the pandemic is horrible. But how many? What do we have? Caffeine hit me. I'm sorry. So yesterday was the 3rd. So we have 2 months until the election. Under 2 months. what if there's a bombing? What if there's a hurricane?
Well, there's another.
Like, what if there's like the 2 months, something could happen. You know,
A lot can happen in 2 months.
Like, it could be there could be a big plane crash. There could be, you know what I mean? So there's still like I'm just wondering if anything else. Obviously, there could be a second wave in COVID. That's a higher probability scenario, and it's kind of instilled within us right now because of the masks and everything. It's predominantly in our mind. What if there's a protest or riot where like 25 people, God forbid, get killed? Natural disaster. You know, what if there's a horrible storm? I'm wondering how much of a probability that will happen, and depending on what it is, how that could influence the election.
I think Scott Adams would say it's 100% guaranteed that something big happens between now and then. And I think that's probably, of course, it's something that's going to happen.
Schools
Whether it's something stupid like this
what
Atlantic
if there's a
article
school
comes out
shooting?
at the last.
Right.
Yeah, anything could happen like that. I guess if it was a school shooting, that'd be kind of hard if they're doing the virtual classrooms. But
No, some schools are meeting in person.
yeah,
There
I was
are.
trying to make a joke
So-
there. It didn't really go anywhere. But
No, I got you. So, Chris, your final thoughts on just whatever you got to say.
It's going to be interesting to see what happens. I hope that I hope in-person voting, that's the way to do it. I'm going to see if I can get involved as a poll observer this time. I did it in 2016. It was definitely an eye-opening experience. If you've got the time and you've got the ability and the interest, see about doing that. You know, it gives you sort of a first.
What if you see
Firsthand.
somebody? What if you see something fishy? Like, what's the?
All you can really do as a poll observer is just report. So you take notes, you report.
You just kind of like record it. And
I've
then,
got. I was going through the other day. I've got the notebook that I use. That's just page after page of notes, and you're supposed to keep track of how many people have voted, and you're kind of keeping track, and then you compare with the actual numbers on the voting machines at the end of your shift or at the end of the night. There's a lot of sketchy stuff that goes on. Whether or not it's definitely illegal or definitely fraudulent or definitely whatever, who knows? But what you're looking for as a poll observer is just like trends where it's like, okay, this poll worker that's working, signing people in is doing something that doesn't look quite right. They're not following the procedures. You make note of that. You report it to the Board of Elections. They have their whatever they do.
Notes are also admissible in a court of law.
Was that?
Notes are also admissible in a court of law. I learned that from.
Are they really?
Doing security, because that's what it's thing. It's like they usually didn't have you, especially if you weren't at a firearm site. It's like they gave you your pen, your little notepad, and you jot things down. Because
you can't even have a camera if you're within the little border that they set up around the election place. Which, I mean, you can step outside of it, and I did. I got some license plate numbers and stuff from stuff that I saw at the place that I observed at. But I think in-person voting, voter ID, that seems like a no-brainer. Long story short, I guess my big thing for the week and for the month and beyond is that the election, if we don't have confidence in it, like, it's going to be absolute chaos beyond what it would normally be. Just people are upset if they didn't win or whatever. But it just seems like now more than ever we really need to figure out a way to tighten up security around those elections.
I think it's going to cut both ways. I think if Trump wins, the Democrats are going to say that
there's no possible
collusion. And I think if Trump loses, he's going to say it's voter fraud. So I think regardless of who wins, the other side's going to say collusion or voter fraud. Regardless of who wins?
That actually goes into kind of like an article that had come out where apparently I believe John Podesta and some folks realized that it's like they ran literally a D&D style game, and it's basically what happens if you have several outcomes, and the only of the four scenarios they had where there wasn't necessarily like large scale spread conflict, or at least spread out conflict throughout the states, was if Biden had a very decisive victory. They're just kind of like, we'll go on. But we're going to have to save that for another time because we're going to wrap up here, folks. So thank you, CM. Thank you, Chris.
Thanks for having us.
And for Bowen that popped in here, yes, hover bikes are a thing. So thank you all for watching.
Cool.
Peace out, everybody. Peace.